This is Swarfcast. I'm Noah Graff. There are so many questions I have for you. I'm going to ask you a hard one.
Okay.
Well, maybe you have a very simple answer. So many people, they work their ass off. Obviously, there's different degrees. I think you'd probably agree that the richest people in the world, they're probably not the people that work the hardest. Many of them work very hard. But what is it about people who are entrepreneurs, who are company owners, successful company owners, and people who are able to replace themselves? What is it about? Why are there X people on one side and then other people on another side? Is it just the way you think it's just what they've seen growing up and think that this is what I can aspire to? Do you think that there's something innate in somebody like yourself? I mean, personally, I'm still trying to figure it out what I am. Maybe I could be one or the other. But it seems like you're just, and I don't like to say people are just naturals at things, but it seems like for you, do you feel like you knew your whole life that you were meant to be the guy in charge?
So I'll start with a little bit of a disagreement on what you said. So you said, the richest people in the world, maybe they don't work the hardest. I don't totally disagree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, they work hard.
But I'm gonna use one person as an example that's gonna completely blow that out of the water. Elon Musk.
Okay.
Right? I mean, he is the richest person in the world. And I would venture to say he works harder than anybody in the world. Right? So I'll disagree with that a little bit, but
a lot of the richest people in the world don't work as hard as somebody in India digging a ditch, or somebody working 3 jobs. Depends what work you mean,
Right. So that's where I was going to take my answer. Right. So I think we as a society, we do think, I mean, my own team, they see me drive a nice truck and, go on trips and whatever. And they're like, well, I'm working a lot harder than he is.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, yeah, you are. I mean, physically for sure, but this is true of most of the successful, there's a difference. I'm not going to say business owners. I'm going to say successful business owners.
Okay.
But the people you're talking about, and you're asking about me. And so if I put myself in a category of someone that works hard and is, quote, successful. I mean, I still get up and go to work every day. Right. So I'm not some independently wealthy person that doesn't have to do that. But I've had a lot of success and a lot of luck and a lot of things that have got me to this point. But my favorite line, read this a couple of years ago, and it's perfectly applicable here, is the best thing about owning your own company is you get to choose which 80 hours a week you work.
Mm.
Right? I mean, I'm not stuck on someone else's schedule. I get to do it whenever I want, but I got to do it.
Do you work 80 hours a week?
Sometimes. I mean, it's obviously a facetious. I mean, it's a broad statement. It's a general.
Sure.
But you don't see how much I work, right? All people see is what they perceive as success, and man, he's just sitting in his office all day, right? Like,
are you working right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to me, I am, which leads me to the next part of my answer to your question. So Nick Gollner and I recorded a Making Chips episode back in the summer. If anybody wants to go find it, and I think it digs into this question a lot better than we're going to be able to here. But and I called Nick driving home from vacation. I said, "Hey, I got an episode I want to record." And he's like, "What's that?" And I said, "The fallacy of work-life balance." He's like, "What do you mean the fallacy?" Like, it's bullshit. You can edit that out if you want. Sorry.
No, I want to know why it's bullshit.
So have you ever heard anybody talk about work-life balance that they need to work more?
Um,
No. People talk about work-life balance when they don't work enough or when they work too much, right?
usually, usually
When people are asking for a better work-life balance, they need more time with their family. They need more.
they're workaholics
Right.
often.
And I've been through that stage of my life many times, right? Different seasons of my life, I worked way, way, way too much. Um, but there's a quote, and I don't have it pulled up. Actually, I can. I'm going to read it for you because it's important to the answer your question. Um, the master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he is working or playing. To him, he's always doing both. Okay, so I would put myself in a category of someone that's pursuing to be a master in the art of living. I don't know what's work and play. So when you say, "Am I working right now?" Yeah. Am I playing right now? Yeah. Um, to me, it's about the integration in your life. There's not there's not a work life balance of like I need to spend this many hours doing this and this many hours doing this. You got to have balance in your life, and you're
Hmm.
going to go through cycles throughout your life, right? Like there's going to be times. I've had 2 heart surgeries. There's going to be times in my life I've got to focus on me and my health and my family, right? There's going to be other times in my life I need to focus on work and money and all the problems that come with careers, right?
Yeah,
Stress and all those things. But if they aren't serving each other, why do I need to make more money to provide for my family, right? I mean, to provide my wife, my kids, myself the life I want them to have. Why do I need to work less so that I can spend time with them? It's all about it's a balance, and this whole I just don't like the general thoughts that are around the term work life balance. I think everybody's got to find this integration of their work and their life, right?
yeah.
And you got to be doing both all the time. So we were talking about, like I said, I called Nick on the way home from a vacation, and throughout the vacation, I mean, we're in Colorado for 7 days, 10 days, however long we were there, and fly fishing in the morning and hiking all day and having great dinners and um, but I still have work to do. So I'm getting up an hour before everybody else and I'm cranking through emails and I'm addressing problems and I'm checking on things at the shop.
Don't you
And
think? Don't you think there's something to be said for purifying yourself from the work and not taking it with you?
if I don't do that power hour, I can't do the other. I'll spend the whole day wondering what's going on.
So
Did the guy
it sounds like you haven't replaced yourself.
I have and actually I have done really well in the last year. My management team has killed it in the last year to a point where I can.
Hmm.
But there are still things regardless. I mean you can replace yourself to the millionth degree. There's still things that as a business owner, as an employer, as as providing an income to multiple families, you have to be responsible for. Right now, I admire the people that can put it away for a month and go to South America and find themselves. That's great. And I could do that today. I mean, we operate well enough to do that.
Yeah,
But you still have a responsibility to yourself, to your company, and your people, right? To provide and to do the things that need to be done. That hour I spend in the morning doesn't mean I'm working hard, but I am making sure that certain things that fall under my responsibilities and as an owner and as an employer and as a leader of my company are done, right? To
Yeah.
my customers, to my vendor, whoever that might be. Um,
Unless you would put somebody else you trusted in charge to do that.
I already have, I mean, I have that, but again, I take a lot of responsibility for
Mhm.
what we do, and I will have a much better time
Ah,
that day fly fishing and hiking and spending time with my family if I know those things are taken care of.
all right.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense now.
Because I'll put it away. I can turn the phone off all day after I've done that.
Mhm. But it sounds to me like, and feel free to disagree because it sounds like you disagree a little bit, um, that part of the reason for that hour is for you. It's not necessarily for the company.
It's largely for me, sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I have to know. And part of that, it's most of the time I don't do anything, but I check, right?
Right.
Because the it's absolutely for me, but it's because of my sense of duty
So you're
that
not
I'm
replying you're not replying to 20 emails in that morning. You're just making sure shit is okay.
right. But again, that's a sense of responsibility that I place on myself, right? And I think if you go look at, as you said, these high performing people, there's a sense of responsibility and purpose to what they're doing, right? I mean, I have a purpose for the things I'm doing, and I own the responsibility for that. So that doesn't end just because I left the office.
Sure. Okay, go backward though. Go back to the hardest question, which is why are there certain people who do you think it's an innate thing with you that you're just like
I think
I'm the man. This is what I do. I run things. I run things. I'm not somebody
Well,
that is
I think it really goes back to what I just said, which is I have a sense of purpose,
okay.
right? That's bigger than me, right? So when you asked earlier, what energize, like we talked about, me creating opportunity for my people is my purpose, right? I mean, yes, I want to go buy companies, I want to make money, I want to do good deals, but a lot of the purpose for that is to create opportunities for other people, right? So I have a purpose in needing that power hour. I have a purpose in, while I'm on a trip, I have a purpose in every day of driving other people forward,
Yeah.
right? So, um, your purpose could be a lot of things, but with a purpose, I think, you automatically are going to do more. Um, a, a great friend and mentor of mine, probably 20 years ago, told a story about, he graduated from college, became a CPA. One of his best friends growing up, dad, owned a company that and he had a responsibility to, like, as becoming in this CPA firm, he had to start learning to grow a book of business, right?
Mhm.
So he goes to one of his best friends' dad and is like, I want to do your work. And here's all the reasons I think I can do a good job. And here's I mean, I don't have proof of I can do this, but I think I can do this. And here's how hard I'll work for you and all this stuff. Right. And, and the owner of that company, that is a marvelous man in his own right, looks at him and he says, look, I don't care how much you know. I care how much you care. Because if you care, you'll take care of me. Right. And
That's profound.
that was his driving force throughout his career, and he's been wildly successful. And um, you got to care about something, right? And I can see it with everybody we hire in the shop too. I mean, if they have a purpose in their life, they're a better employee than the ones that, like, this is just a means to end to get a paycheck on Friday.
Well, maybe their purpose is just, I want my family to have a decent lifestyle.
And that's all it needs to be, right? I want to take my kids to the lake every summer. I want to, I want to give my kids a better opportunity. They have a purpose. We've absolutely in our various operations had people that you could tell real quick they had no purpose. And guess what? They're just not as good employees.
So they could be a really good employee, and their purpose is just to get a good paycheck.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, not everybody has to have the drive to do like what I've done in my career. That doesn't make you successful or not. You've got to achieve your personal goals. If their personal goals are different than mine, that's who cares? I'm not going to judge anybody on that.
It seems like that's one of your superpowers, that you have a purpose and you know what it is, and you know how to exercise it. It seems like that.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. 2020 during COVID when we were down 60%, and I was holding on to my team. I mean, like, trying not to do layoffs and all this stuff. And, you do a lot of soul searching when you're in those situations, right? Where you're going back in your pocket to keep the company alive and all those types of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really realized during that time is what I'm good at is helping other people, whether it's my employees, whether it's the community, whether it's a friend, whether it's, whatever. And that's what I'm good at it, and I enjoy it. Right. And so really anything you're good at and enjoy, you're going to be successful. Right. I mean, you can,
Mhm.
if you're good at and enjoy playing video games, you're going to be good at doing that. Right. Um, if you love playing golf, you're going to be good at it. If you love helping other people, you're going to be good at it. Doesn't matter. And yeah, and then if along the way you can, I mean, there's people that make money playing video games because they're good at it, right? Um, it's what's the purpose? What do you care about, and what's your purpose in life that is going to drive you? Mine just, I guess, maybe I'm lucky. My purpose can be monetized,
Hmm.
right? I don't know.
No, I think
Um,
you've given a really good answer. Um,
it's a tough question.
yeah,
It
I mean,
really makes you think.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't totally agree with the fact that um, you love it and you have some skills, so you're going to be awesome in it. I think there has to be something else in you that you creates that drive. You may just maybe that's enough for you as a catalyst, but
You're no, that's an incredibly fair statement. There are people that don't have that in them, and there are people that have that in them for
or
sure.
maybe they're
Right,
decent at something and they happen to love it.
right. Not everybody can be an Elon Musk, right? I mean, like, let's put
Or
that out
even
there.
you.
Or a me, or a you. I mean, there's just there's choices you make in life that prevent you from doing those things, and yes, I do believe there is just some people are wired differently. I mean, I'm definitely wired differently than other people. I don't know exactly how. I don't know where that's a good thing and a bad thing, but I mean, I am wired differently than other people.
Do you think your parents did something to make you have this mentality?
I don't know. I mean,
Nature, nurture?
you know, I don't know. I no, I can't point to
They
that. I mean,
weren't they weren't they weren't business owners.
no, my dad, my dad's side of the family is six generations of educators.
Okay.
Um, and then my mom's side of the
Six
family is,
generations?
yeah, literally. I mean, I've
Who
been to
knows
the
what their six generations ago were doing? Oh my
yeah,
god.
no, I've been to the single I've been to the one building schoolhouse in southeastern Missouri that started.
Were your ancestors on the Mayflower or something? I
Yeah,
mean,
pretty much. Um, no, I mean, it's an entire generation an entire family of educators. So yeah, not business owners.
Okay. What about your mom?
Mom's side was farmers, blue collar labor workers. Yeah, no, I didn't have that like, oh, I'm going to follow in the footsteps thing at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, quite honestly, my wife and I both didn't grow up with much. I mean, me way more than her, but we didn't have that. We weren't in the environment of people have things for sure. The but I think I just always knew I wanted more out of life, and so I chased it.
Right. You thought big.
Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, too, though, I mean, I can't even. I don't know that I can even really take credit for. I mean, all I ever did was just work. I mean, I work hard. I mean,
I can tell.
I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm definitely not the best looking, but I do work hard, and I always worked hard. And when I got myself in binds, the only way, financially or otherwise, the only thing I ever knew to do was work harder.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
think you have a combination of working hard and working smart. And I mean,
I
that's what I think.
I mean, I've been incredibly blessed by a network of really good people around me, and I've worked hard for them, and which has created opportunities for me.
Yeah.
It builds a trust level that, because you show someone how hard you're willing to work for them and how much you care, right? Like back to the how much you know versus how much you care. I care to be successful for you, and yeah, I mean, I've definitely been a beneficiary of a lot of other people's blessings and graces too.
Well, I think one of the main things I've learned from this conversation is the aspect of um, it's like this idea of once you've done the thing, you're motivated to see it through. I
Yeah,
think
I do.
it's you know, I make a deal and I wish you the best. Get back to me if there's a problem. I want to make it right if there's a problem. I care about that, but it's you know people can like that or not. After a certain amount of time, my work for you is done, unless you have an issue. Um, and maybe this is part of the secret to your success. I just find it really interesting. A couple other questions. What's one moment in your life that you felt like serendipity played a huge role?
Yeah, so I'm going to play it a little bit more on the personal side.
So many people say that, and I love that.
My wife and I went to the same high school.
Hmm.
I was 2 years older. Um, I went to the University of Tulsa. A couple years later, she goes to the University of Tulsa.
Did you
We
know her in
knew
high school?
we knew each other. We weren't like close friends or anything. We had some mutual friend circles, but we weren't close. Um, and I was a mess in high school. I was I was I mean, thank God neither one of my kids were like me. And I didn't have a lot of direction in life. I mean, if I think about me then versus me now, I'm like, what was that journey? Like
I find that interesting
that doesn't even add up. Like, how does that guy go to this guy?
because usually, I'd think somebody like you would be like, yeah, well, I started selling baseball cards when I was
No,
10, and
I did work a lot, and I found pleasure in work.
okay.
Um, but otherwise, yeah, no. I mean, I was a terrible student, and the only reason I worked was so I could go party.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just being honest. So fast forward a few years.
But you
I mean,
still got into Tulsa, University of Tulsa, which, and we could totally go down a different rabbit hole, but it's a great thing that you were able to get in.
yeah, it's a great school. It helped that my dad worked there.
Ah. Okay,
So I
there's
mean,
some serendipity
yeah,
there. That's serendipity. Okay.
but I mean, good old fashioned story. Where'd you meet your wife? Well, we knew each other, but I met her at the bar. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going into I guess I'm finishing up my sophomore year of college. She's coming in as a freshman. I see her at a bar. I'm like, hey, I know you. Right. We went to high school together. Yeah. We talk, and it takes me like 2 months to convince her to go on a date with me because
Wow.
she's so well grounded that all she knew was the me from high school. Like, I'm not dating that guy.
He's a screw up.
He's a mess. Right. And quite honestly, from that point forward, I had to prove myself. I had to convince this woman this girl at the time that she should go on a date with me, right? And that I had changed, and I did have purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, I would still tell you today, like I mean, out I outkicked my coverage, and a lot of what has driven me is to provide her the life I think she deserves.
So the first serendipity was running into her at the bar. The second serendipity was she made you have the drive.
Yeah, and then I've got to fast. I would be terribly remiss to not fast forward 10 years ish, maybe a little bit longer than that, or mid 2000s, when I was, I'm now in this, kind of business transaction space, business development. I was also working at an accounting firm at the time, and I met this really cool guy that was a partner at the accounting firm that is, fast forward today, is my business partner and one of my best friends. And
Mm-hmm.
he's been my mentor in business. He's been my mentor in my faith. He's been my mentor as a husband. He's been my mentor as a father. He's an amazing man that, um, there's not a positive thing that's happened in my life in the last 25 years that he didn't play some role in.
Wow.
Um,
That's serendipity.
and I could give you 100 other examples. There's other people that have had these major impacts on my life. There's good things and bad things that have pointed me in all the directions I've gone. Um, I mean, the whole idea, we kind of skipped over, didn't skip over, but I talk about exiting the software company. I was 29 years old, um, and we were out negotiated and swindled by some bad investors. We had really bad guidance. We'd never done this before, and we were screwed over. Um, and part of my part of my mission, and maybe it's why, like, now my purpose is to help other people, but part of my driving force when I started getting into transaction work, whether it was raising investment dollars or buying and selling companies, was to make sure that didn't happen to somebody else. Right. I mean, I was 29 years old. I could recover from a bad deal. Right. I mean, I still had 30, 40 years of a career left in front of me. Um, if it would have happened to me at 59, I'd be a greeter at Walmart through retirement. Right. Like, I mean, it's that type of difference between a good exit and a bad exit. Um, so I mean, there's been a lot of little things that have happened in my life that have obviously gotten to me where my philosophy and my mindset and everything is today, and a lot of really great people. I mean, my greatest asset is my network, hands
Absolutely.
down.
I can tell.
Um,
And now I'm blessed to be part of your network. Yeah, I think you're an important person to know. Um,
yeah, and I think a lot of that, even, you mentioned earlier about, like, I mean, I've been involved with making chips for a few years. I just launched this, new By the Numbers podcast. A lot of that is me just wanting to give back, right? It's me wanting to share my experiences. I don't know all the right answers, but I've been through a lot of stuff, and I know a lot of people that know a lot of stuff. So if I can bring those conversations to the table for other business owners and manufacturing leaders. Our mission at Making Chips is to equip and inspire manufacturing leaders, right? So, if some of these stories and some of this knowledge and all that can equip and inspire other people, then like I'm happy. I mean, that's really all I want.
Awesome. Anything else you want to say to the people of the world? You want to tell people where they can see your podcast or your business, or if you just have any parting words?
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, good Lord, thanks for pulling out all my emotional side of my life.
Yes, I'm totally working on that.
I,
Super
I don't.
Communicators, great book.
I think I've shared more in this podcast than I've probably ever shared publicly, but
Totally
that's okay.
boosting my ego. Thank
Yep.
you.
No, that's good. I mean, you drew it out. That's awesome. You're a good storyteller, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, I try to be very active on LinkedIn. I think it's a great resource for everybody in our industry. So anybody can reach out to me there. From there, you can find Hill Manufacturing Fabrication and the other companies that, the other shops that we own, DGP, MPPI, C&D. You can also from there find, so makingchips.com is our entire podcast family. Within that, you can find By the Numbers. And then, of course, both of those are available on all the podcast platforms, and they have their LinkedIn pages. And I mean, again, my purpose even really behind doing the podcast thing, and the guys had to kind of drag me into it. They're like, come on, do it. Like, you've got good stories to tell. And, but really my motivation there was just helping other people. I mean, if these stories and these examples can help somebody learn something that helps their business, their life, their employees, whatever, then that's awesome. Like that's all I care about.